we can actually, rather than trying to start anew, we can reframe our past in order to not have such a sad story in life. How you guys doing? Derek here, and I'm here to help you find your identity. And the good news is, it's an amazing one. It's not a negative one. So I had somebody on the Reddit, they mentioned that they're struggling with social anxiety, and I had replied to another post about how someone was having social anxiety, and I said, like, there are three things we can do. We can fight it. We can continue to fight anxiety and tell yourself, I'm not going to have it today, or whatever you do to fight it, which doesn't work. Or number two is we can embrace it, and embracing it is a heck of a lot better than fighting it. There are people out there who say, I have anxiety, or I have social anxiety, and the anxiety I've noticed doesn't stop when people say this, but they seem to be a lot less shamed when they have it. And they seem to be a lot less hard on themselves when they have it, because a lot of it is like when you start to feel anxiety, you start to just get on yourself for it. You're like, oh no, here it comes again. And you become, that's what starts the cycle, is the shame and the resistance to it. Whatever you resist persists in life. That's how it works. So resisting it is not going to work. Fighting it is not going to work. Accepting it works, but you still have to think about, like, do you still want it in your life forever? And I used to have it again when I was in my teens and my 20s, and I figured out what it was, and it had to do with the way that I was raised by society. Now, this particular video is about how we talk about our past and how we look in our past, and we seem to identify with our past. And what we don't, a lot of self-improvement techniques out there teach you, like, forget about the past, you're going to start a new day right now, and you're going to change everything, and this is the new you, and who cares, you can't do anything about the past, so just let it go. Let the past go and continue on. That sounds amazing. But the thing is that we're shaped by our past. The way that I act, all my nervous tics, if I do that, or any facial expressions that I'm having right now, it's all because of my subconscious mind. It's all built from my past. The way that I did this with my hand, this came from something in my past that taught me that. So I can't just ignore my past when it's such a big part of me. And I can't just let it go, because our mind is like an iceberg, where you have the tip of the iceberg here is our conscious, and when you go underneath the water, our subconscious mind gets here, and this is really what's running us every day. How do we get to our subconscious mind? How do we figure out what's really running our anxiety? What's causing this response, this fight or flight response? And I've made a video before about a way to do that, but I don't want to focus on that, which is, it's a technique where you basically, you get into a relaxed and meditative state. You could meditate first, and then you ask yourself questions basically about the last time you felt anxiety. Why did this happen? Why did I feel it? And then you answer because, and then why, because, and you could probably get down to like your childhood and figure out, like, it all goes back to the beginning stages of life, really. I mean, usually, because that's why most people don't know why they have anxiety. Because if you developed anxiety only when you turn 16, usually there's a reason for that. You don't just get it for no reason. Like, there's usually a reason, and when we have the capacity to remember, we're usually able to find what the problem was and try to cope with it. But for me, it was something that had happened when I was like 3 or 4. It was just a change in my family dynamic that kind of caused that, and being taught by stuff from society which wasn't right. But that's for another video. This one is about how we can actually, rather than trying to start anew, we can reframe our past in order to not have such a sad story in life. And it's really changing your story, because changing your thoughts is changing your reality. So I used to say that I had a loveless childhood. Thinking back, first of all, I didn't understand that in my time, most people didn't talk about their problems that much. And so I didn't know that a lot of childhoods were similar to mine. most people, they didn't grow up getting all the love that they needed from their parents because their parents weren't getting all the love that they needed, or they're continuing some generational pattern. Their cups were not full and we were trying to drink from empty cups. And so for me, one of my parents was a dry cup. I couldn't drink from it. I needed something else. These other things became too important to me that I would just get unnatural, and I would have social anxiety because of that. And so what you could do right now as an adult, if you're an adult, or even if you're a teenager, if you're able to comprehend this video, you can do it, is think about your past. Now, when you were a child, you weren't like taught, or that like you weren't developed enough to understand that you can change your reality. You can actually be grateful where you are as a child. When you're a child, you didn't know that you could do that. You didn't know that you're able to create a positive life from your thoughts, from your desire, from your faith, from whatever it is. Your power, basically, you're able to shape your reality. And so you need parents to guide you to do that, and they probably didn't do that. But as an adult, you can think back to your childhood and say, oh, my past was bad because this. I went throughout my middle school, I didn't have a girlfriend, and I didn't have any close friends, and I had, this experience, blah, blah, blah. And I used to have a bad past. If you asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, how was your childhood? I would say, oh, I was unhappy, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you ask me, I've totally reframed my past, and I look at the good things in my past. It's like that movie, which I just watched recently, It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Tom Hanks. He's talking about this, his specialty is children, right? And the main character is talking to him, and the main character had a bad childhood, and Tom Hanks talks to him and said, like, oh my gosh, there's an ant crawling on my lens cover. I hope it doesn't get in the lens. We'll see. That'll be an interesting shot, if it does. Okay, so he told him, like, take a moment and think about all the people who loved you to life, right? So it's like, and he also mentioned that your father shaped you into the man you are today, even though it was a negative experience. But okay, let's go to a philosophy from some of the best self-improvement and even call it New Age or whatever, the spiritual teaching books. They say you can shape your reality. There are no like negative experiences. It all depends on how you think of it, how you perceive it. So if that's true, then you can think back to your childhood and you can think of all the good things that you can be happy about, and you can say, I had a good childhood. You're not comparing to anybody. You're choosing. Now, even if you are comparing to everybody and you're comparing to the world, yes, you had a good childhood, probably. Because look at the world. Look at how much suffering, how much starvation, how much hardship there is. And like a lot of us, we're struggling with social anxiety. But in our childhood, like, we didn't have any wars to fight. We didn't have like poverty. At least I didn't. I didn't have all that. And I don't think that would shape it anyway. But still, it's like you can shape your view of your childhood. And I choose to shape mine as like, I was so lucky I had a roof under my head. I am here today because of my childhood. I'm alive. I'm healthy. I had food every meal. I had a mother who loved me. I had the support from her that I needed. I had opportunities. I had grown up in a relatively friendly and safe community. And there's so many positive things that I can talk about from my childhood. If you ask me now how my childhood was, I would tell you a positive story. And if you asked me 2 years ago, I'd tell you a negative story. But it's like choosing the positive in your past and reshaping it in different ways, rather than your negative story that you play on repeat, is going to turn you into a different person. And so this is kind of a therapy I've never heard of. I mean, I just started doing it, and I feel like it's great. It's not like trying to forget your past, but it's actually reframing it, knowing that when you were a child, you chose, and you got to take responsibility for this, you chose to have negative thoughts. You chose to focus on the bad. And it is your fault and it isn't. It is your fault because you did that, but it isn't your fault because you were just doing the best that you could with the resources that you had. You're doing you're making the decisions based on what you knew, which is basically what everybody's doing in the world. So you didn't have a good mentor to teach you that you could have had a positive childhood if you had focused on the right things, right? If you had done this and that. I'll give you an example. I felt like in my childhood there was not a lot of love, right? And the thing is that when I didn't get a lot of love, I was following the advice of the world, which at the time in America had told me that parents must love their children, but children can choose if they want to love their parents or not. And you see like in the advertisements and like movies, and you see how children just disrespect their parents all the time in Western culture. And I've been to different countries where it's not like that. Like kids would not be allowed to disrespect elders like that. And there's a reason for it. And if you follow the advice that is traditional and that is long lasting, that has worked for centuries, it's that you need to respect your elders. Even if you don't really, even if you don't like understand them or something, but you're supposed to love your parents, for example. And you got to understand that whatever they did, they have been doing what they thought was the best idea at the time with what they're, there's always a way to see that people are innocent in a way. Like we can either blame them and hold hate in our heart, which only is to our detriment. Unforgiveness will just eat you alive, and you'll think that you're winning by not forgiving somebody, but by not forgiving somebody, you're giving them all the power over you by just holding on to this pain. They're probably not even thinking about it, and you're the one in unforgiveness hurting yourself. But forgiving is letting go and being free from the pain. Okay, so for me, I learned to forgive one of my parents, and I learned to love him, even though, I'll just say my father, okay. I learned to love him and respect him because he doesn't know what he does. Like he grew up in a certain way that he learned that you have to like work hard in order to be loved. Like he had to earn love, which I think is totally not natural at all. And so, yeah, that's it for the video. Is if you think that you have a bad past and you're letting the story of your past affect you right now and affect your anxiety and all that, first of all, reframe it, I would say, and reframe it in a positive way. Like genuinely try to feel, not just write down, not just think, but actually feel it in the heart, because that means it's like, that's evidence that it's a sealed deal. Like if it's in your heart, a feeling of gratitude, then it's going to change you. The feeling is what's going to change you. And so the other thing that I do recommend is to, like I said earlier in the video, is to write down, when you feel the anxiety and what happened exactly, what is the reason for whatever worry you have, write that down, and then ask yourself why, and write that down, and why, and write that down. And for me, I've done this so many times, and it's like, it can be like a page, or it could be like two pages, and sometimes it gets to one situation that happened when I was really young, and it's usually about the parents, because the parents teach us love patterns. So we either grow up believing that our parents filled our cups or not, and that's what it comes to. When they fill your cup, they show you that they care about your heart. They fill your confidence. They do everything that you need. They just fill you up, like when you're a kid, and they either do that or they don't when you're a kid. So the truth is that a lot of people don't have that positive experience where they're just getting all the confidence, all the love from their parents that they needed, and so they turn to other people. They turned to other things. That was my story. Is that I didn't feel like I was getting enough when I was a kid. So different relationships and people in my life that I would meet, it became very important to me that I either had their love to fill me up, or that I proved to myself that I can feel good around them. And it's an ego thing too. It's like proving to yourself that you can feel good around these people so that you can have hope in life, that you will be happy. Like it's kind of funny in a way, and it's kind of silly, But yes, try to do these things. There are other things that I could talk about, but that's just the focus of the video, reframing your childhood. Thank you guys for watching. Please comment, please like, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.